Hello, welcome to HRA Geopolitics, another episode about geopolitics and interesting subjects. Today, I have a very valuable guest, Ben Hodges from Germany. He has given his important time to us to explain, especially two important subjects right now. One is the Ukraine issue, and another one is the Turkey-US relations. Welcome, Ben.
Harun, thank you for the privilege.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Um, if you remember, at the beginning of the Ukraine war, we have spoken with you on a Twitter Space channel, and I remember we were all a bit optimistic, at least from the perspective of the view of the US administration to that time and the unity under the umbrella of NATO. But many things changed, especially the Biden administration maybe could not act as we have expected, or maybe it was not enough. But right now we are in a dilemma, especially from a US administration perspective. And I'm following you especially very close related to the Ukraine issue. You're explaining us very in depth, especially on Twitter and other channels. And I feel you have also sense of frustration about the actions of the right now the administration. And my question would be, especially Trump, before he became the president, he was speaking very big about the incident of Ukraine and was blaming Obama and Biden administrations that they have started and that they have encouraged Russia to do so. And if he would go into the White House, that he could just solve the issue in 24 hours. Now it's been some months, but there are no any results. And it seems that neither the Ukrainians nor the Russians are listening to any agreement. How do you see the situation after the Trump reign has begun? Do you think his approach is the right approach, or makes it more look like the US is standing weak in geopolitics?
Well, I think it's clear that President Trump does not have a clue about how to solve this. You know, he bragged about what he was going to do. He obviously overestimated his own abilities. He and his team have demonstrated that they do not understand the geography or the culture or the history of this war and what Russia really wants to do. And they don't even understand why Ukraine is still fighting. And so yesterday, when the president said, looks like Putin's gone crazy, that Putin is exactly the same person he's been the last 20 years. It's that President Trump. What's crazy is that he thought somehow he was just going to walk in and solve this over the heads of everybody else. And it's clear that the Russians have been playing him. He's been outmaneuvered by Putin. His special envoy, Mr. Witkoff, is totally incompetent in this regard. And the Russians have made it clear that they are not interested in any sort of negotiated outcome. They've not backed away from any of their objectives. And right now, they're pretty sure that the United States is not going to do anything and that Europe is going to be slow in doing anything.
Yes. And when we come to the European perspective, especially, after the announcements and the view of Trump administration just throwing, let's say, Ukraine under bus and Zelensky and the humiliation, especially what happened in White House, I don't remember in my entire life that any US administration has handled any foreign guest like this. There were some arguments, but not in that kind of manner. And after all of the signals that Trump gave to all of his allies, including Turkey, where the trust is maybe not like in the past for US. And the Europeans are talking right now to go alone in this fight, maybe to deliver the weapons and stand behind the Ukraine. But we are get used for many decades that the US was actually the first one who was taking the Europeans behind and going into geopolitical situations to solve it. Right now, the Europeans have never handled such a big issue. Do you think, after all the disasters, especially at the beginnings, for the weapon deliveries and the reluctant politicians in Europe, that really be it Merz or Macron or Starmer, that they have the capability to change this situation and help Ukraine lonely?
Well, yes, they do, but they have to summon their moral courage and their strategic backbone to do it. Europe has the wealth, it has the industry, it has the capability, but they just have not made this the priority yet. But I think that they are finally starting to realize that with the Trump administration, they are going to have to take matters into their own hands, that the Americans are not going to solve this, that the Trump administration either has no clue or real interest in doing this. And if they don't, then the danger for Europe becomes much, much greater. So I think the addition of Friedrich Merz as the German Bundeskanzler, this is going to help. He's coming in with a level of confidence, I think, in a decisive approach that's needed. So you've got Starmer, Macron, Merz, Tusk, Stubb from Finland, Meloni from Italy, and other leaders. This new Romanian president, I think, are all going to work together. And I hope, of course, that they will work with President Erdogan to help make sure that Russia is not successful in its continued aggression against Ukraine.
I understand, especially when you mentioned also President Erdogan is the talks going on right now in Istanbul. At the beginning 2021, when the invasion has started, there were also some efforts from the Turkish foreign policy to at least solve, and some small or big, how you read successes like the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and also the change of prisoners of war, etc. Right now, of course, we are in a totally different dimension where Trump is just looking for some mineral deals, but giving no security guarantees. And it seems like after he could not handle the situation, he is maybe hoping that something is happening in Turkey over President Erdogan, especially the experience that Turkey has in the last many years. We have talked with you about the situation in Syria, in Libya, in Karabakh, and many other places where we have faced the Russians, and we know very well how they handle the situations when it comes to agreement. And our pain is still there from the Sochi agreements, where they just took our time for years, going Sochi, coming back, and nothing solved. At the end, you look, the only solution was the military solution in Syria. So when you look from this perspective, do you think we can gain any momentum in Istanbul about an agreement using the experience of the Turkish foreign policy and President Erdogan to get Putin at least on some certain kind of situation to an agreement? Do you believe in it? And the follow-up question would be, do you think the Americans are throwing the issue to our side to maybe for something that they could not solve by themselves?
So I think the Trump administration would love for somebody to make this problem go away. He has demonstrated he's not capable of it. And so he's going to try and put the blame on everybody from Obama to Biden to the neighbors to Zelensky, anybody except Putin. And so this is where countries like Turkey, that are powerful countries in their own right and have interests here, that this ends in a positive way for Ukraine. And so I hope that Turkey will feel confident in working with European allies, if not the United States, to put pressure on Russia. Look, Russia's in trouble economically. They cannot keep doing what they're doing. And if the West, including Turkey, would work to shut down Russia's oil and gas, their exports of the Shadow Fleet vessels going out through the Bosphorus as well as through the Danish Straits, if you stop that, if you can manipulate global gas prices working with other oil-producing nations, it would wreck Russia. That's what would bring them to the table. They've already had 900,000 casualties. They don't care. What they will care about is when there's real economic pressure and they see that the West is not going to roll over, but in fact is determined. Then he'll realize he cannot win, and then he will come to the table. And so I think Turkey plays a key role because of its geography, where it sits as a Black Sea power, to help stop the flow of these illegal vessels that are unsafe, environmental disasters waiting to happen, help other nations stop them from doing that. That would be more important than 1,000 ATACMS missiles.
I think the same, because the Russians were, what I know, especially after Putin took the reign, they understand generally from one thing, that the heat is going directly to Kremlin. And I think the entire NATO failed, especially regarding the sanctions. Yes, the sanctions were there, but they were always circumvented anywhere else. And that is, of course, a weakness, and that need to be solved. I agree wholeheartedly. So thank you for this, Ben. My last question would be to come a bit to the Turkey perspective. A new administration is there, and we have talked with you in past, especially about all of the disagreements, what happened with the mistakes in past, etc. Be it with the S-400 issue, the F-35 issue, the situation in Syria with the PKK. Now a new administration is there. Maybe, not maybe, I think about most of the geographical areas of the world, they have no clue. I guess when they are talking, I'm just scratching my head. But anyway, at least Trump has, how I understand, a good personal relation with Erdogan. We think this personal relation can solve some of these problems, like the S-400 issue, F-35, or the situation that American army moves away from Syria, and so maybe the PKK issue is settled also inside of Syria. How do you see the last situation?
Well, first of all, I would not count on personal relationships. I mean, President Trump brags all the time he has a wonderful relationship with Putin and Kim Jong-un and President Xi, and none of these things have worked out. So, of course, it's better if he can get along with the leader of another country like President Erdogan. But what's more important is having a clear-eyed view of our strategic interests, and figuring out how do we protect our interests, and doing it with a NATO ally like Turkey. Now, I think it's in the interest of the United States, it's in the interest of NATO that we have a strong, healthy relationship with Turkey, but it's also in the interest of Turkey to have a strong relationship with the West. And so this is a relationship that needs a lot of work. Right now, I don't think the Erdogan government trusts anybody in the West, but that feeling is probably mutual. But I don't know what the Trump administration's Middle East policy is going to be. It looks like they have almost abandoned Israel. I mean, Israel acts right now as if they have no restraint or anything from the U.S. administration. Trump seems much more interested in huge deals, real estate deals with Qatar and the Saudis, and doing things like that. So it's hard to say, how do they look at this region of Israel and Lebanon and Syria and Turkey, and what are Turkey's interests there? Clearly, the president would like to get some kind of a deal with Iran. But because he's not driven by moral principles, he's driven only by his own narcissism and a desire to get a deal, whatever it is. So to be honest, for me, it's difficult to predict exactly what direction he's going. And unfortunately, he has nobody around him by design that's willing to say no, or to push back, or to say, Mr. President, we can't do that. We should be doing this. He made sure this time he has nobody around him to do that.
So that means actually we had some disagreements in past with the US, but there were always state bureaucracy to hand, especially from White House, whom they could listen what the relations with Turkey, etc., who could explain that. But I think that is also absent, like you say. I have the same feeling. So you never know what tomorrow morning Trump will say, or in the evening. So he changes his mind, and that is, of course, the unpredictability of the United States will hurt many allies. That's also what I follow, and most probably you will also agree to that.
Yeah, it hurts the United States. It ruins our credibility. People will not trust us, and we need allies. Even with $1 trillion defense budget, we do not have enough to do everything we need to do. And so, his approach is we're screwing ourselves. I hope that Secretary Rubio seems to be the only sort of grown up in the administration. At least when he was Senator Rubio, he understood. So, if I was advising the Turkish government, I would definitely focus on Secretary Rubio, but also members of Congress that understand what's at stake here.
Mhm. I understand. So thank you very much, Ben, for your in-depth answers. We learned a lot, and thank you very much for giving your time.
Well, it was a privilege to talk with you again, Harun, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Guys, if you like the content, don't forget to follow, and we see each other in the next episode. Thank you again, Ben. Bye-bye.